At the spring dusk, a woman with a troubled expression walked out of the corner pizza shop. The woman's name is Ella. She doesn't like pizza, but she came to the pizza shop to meet her ex-husband and son. The divorce happened because her ex-husband used to abuse her. Ella had a tough time after the divorce. When she encountered her ex-husband, she was already 30 years old. She didn't mind that he had a brief second marriage. Love still existed. The romantic days turned into the mundane, and her ex-husband could still maintain the tenderness from their dating days. Ella lived a relatively happy life. After giving birth to their son, her ex-husband wanted to improve his career, always coming home late. Ella was busy all day long, struggling to take care of herself. She single-handedly raised their son until he was 3, but he refused her to take him to kindergarten. Other kids said that his mom was old and ugly. Her ex-husband also complained, "Can't you put on some makeup, buy some nice clothes? You look like a middle-aged woman, embarrassing our son." Of course, he could remain forever young. After all, it's not him who went through the changes in body and appearance due to childbirth. He found faults with her, and their son also disliked her. He didn't like the curry she made, and he even threw the entire plate into the sink. Watching the hard-cooked meal being drowned in dish soap bubbles, a string in Ella's mind snapped. She went mad, trying to prevent them from going out to eat pizza. In the push and shove, she made the first move, but her ex-husband hit harder, leaving her curled up on the entryway floor. Although she had practiced martial arts in her youth, she couldn't match the strength of her husband. He shattered her dignity and her last patience for the marriage. Ella decisively filed for divorce, but her ex-husband vehemently refused to let her take their child. Eventually, she got a share of their assets and left. Her ex-husband had a change of heart, wanting her to come back for the sake of their son, to give him a complete family. Ella forgot who described marriage as a river, and the courage to jump in and the courage to swim back were equally important. She felt she couldn't degrade herself, jumping into the same river twice. So, she coldly told her ex-husband that, for the sake of their son, they could learn to be qualified divorced parents. Today, at the pizza shop, as they talked about the son's school, teachers, and new friends, Ella listened with a smile, her eyes focused only on her son. When they parted ways, her ex-husband whispered to Ella that he was getting remarried. To consider the new wife's feelings, it wouldn't be convenient for their son to visit her. After they left, Ella sat alone for a while, silently packing the leftover pizza her son didn't finish and taking it back to her rented place. In the rush of the evening commute, with a square box in hand, she blended into the crowded street, yet she seemed so alone. Afterwards, everything changed because that household had a new mistress. Her ex-husband was busy embracing his newlywed life, not mentioning when he would visit, and Ella didn't bring it up either. Unable to see her son, Ella, surprisingly, regretted not enduring a bit more when she was being hit. She regretted giving up custody and still choosing to leave. Ella's best friend had moved far away up north, and she was very concerned. Knowing that Ella had practiced martial arts in her youth, her friend encouraged her to go to a nearby mixed martial arts gym, suggesting it as a way to change her mood. Ella went. On that day, there were 4 new people at the gym for a trial. The coach was overwhelmed, and Ella went to the equipment area to get her hand wraps. After years of not practicing, Ella almost forgot how to wrap them properly. After a few unsuccessful attempts, the coach asked a tall, sturdy man to help her. He was a seasoned member, training for quite some time. Sweat flowed continuously from his neck into the 2 bulging chest muscles. Up close, Ella noticed that the man was not young anymore, and white strands appeared in his black hair. He carefully wrapped her hands, holding them with excessive caution. Ella made a fist, asking him to tighten it. The man asked Ella if she had learned before. She said she played around with it when she was single and bored. He asked again, "Are you single now?" Ella didn't answer. As a form of stand-up combat, mixed martial arts includes boxing, kicking, and knee techniques, requiring pairs to practice together. The man and Ella formed a pair. His name was Lincoln. He helped her with the sandbag. No matter how she kicked or punched, his body remained steady. When it came to sparring, Lincoln stabilized his lower body, raised his boxing gloves above his chin, with a sharp gaze. Facing such eyes, Ella inexplicably felt palpitations, difficulty breathing, as if her chest had been pierced by a sharp object even before he hit her. She fainted when he threw a punch, waking up several minutes later. People in the gym were worried about Ella, surrounding her. Lincoln asked her where it hurt. She felt cold all over, unable to speak. He decisively picked her up and hailed a cab to the hospital. The doctor said Ella was fine in all aspects. Ella murmured, "I can't beat him. He's going to beat me to death." The doctor, pointing to the robust Lincoln, asked if he had beaten her. Ella dared not look at him, just shook her head. Considering Ella's experience, the doctor diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder from domestic violence. When Lincoln drove Ella home, he instinctively got into the passenger seat. After a while, he heard her crying quietly in the back seat. These years, she tried hard to forget the memories of being beaten in front of her son by her ex-husband. She tried to portray a strong mother in front of her son, but all her efforts were in vain. Stricken with illness publicly, Ella was unwilling to go to the gym again, huddled in her rented place like a timid turtle in its shell. Lincoln blamed himself for unintentionally triggering Ella's condition and, several times, tried to compensate by inviting her for a meal, but all his offers were rejected. He had no choice but to order a complete set of combat gear online and send it to Ella, encouraging her to overcome her fear. "Trust me, martial arts are quite elegant. It will make you love this world even more." In the end, Ella was persuaded. After practicing at home for 2 weeks, Lincoln arrived with protective gear, saying he came to be beaten. Accepting someone's things, it wasn't easy to drive them away. That day, Ella wiped her hands on her apron after holding the spatula, feeling a bit awkward as she welcomed Lincoln into her home. He didn't mind her simple living space, drank the tea she made, corrected her movements during practice, and sincerely praised her. Ella felt he was a gentle practice partner, gradually overcoming her inner demons. She was no longer afraid of him. Once during a casual conversation, Ella asked Lincoln how long he had been practicing mixed martial arts. He remained silent for a while before saying, "Almost 9 years. 10 years ago, he and his newlywed wife went on a honeymoon abroad, encountering robbers. His wife was fatally stabbed, and he was severely injured but managed to survive. Unable to accept living without her, he attempted suicide by wrist-cutting in the hospital, only to be discovered and saved by a nurse. As an only child, facing his tearful parents, he couldn't bear to go through with ending his life again. Additionally, he co-founded a company with a talented but business-ignorant friend. The friend relied on him to earn a living for both of them. It was through psychological therapy that Lincoln restored a semblance of a normal life. He told Ella, "The arena of life doesn't stop attacking just because you fall. But after kicking and punching the sandbags every day for so many years, I somehow developed a feeling of mastering my fate. How can I have such an illusion? A big man like me couldn't protect his wife, couldn't beat the robbers. What face do I have to live?" Ella was shaken by Lincoln's experiences and profound pain. Compared to his prolonged and wakeful suffering, her pain seemed like a dormant silkworm. Every time Lincoln came to pick her up for the gym, seeing her warm smile as she descended the stairs and hearing his simple, "We've arrived, don't worry," after dropping her home, plain and small, but it smoothed Ella's heart. After 2 months, her ex-husband finally remembered to arrange for Ella to visit their son. The meeting point was set near the apartment at KFC. Thinking about the possibility of running into former neighbors, Ella wasn't very eager to go. Lincoln asked her what was bothering her when she talked about this while holding on to the sandbag. With a powerful punch on the sandbag, he said, "Just go, what are you afraid of? I'll accompany you. Let's see if he dares to hit his ex-wife." Ella quietly corrected, "I'm not his wife anymore." Unexpectedly, Lincoln said, "Then let him know the consequences of hitting someone else's wife." Ella didn't dare to dwell on Lincoln's words, afraid he would actually stand up for her and create trouble for her ex-husband. In a moment, she gathered the courage to meet her son. The visit was scheduled for 5 in the afternoon, and Ella had to go for boxing at 7, so she went in her boxing attire. Outside the glass window, she saw her son inside, enjoying fried chicken legs. Besides her ex-husband, there was also a young pregnant woman sitting next to them, chatting and laughing. His wife was there too, and Ella felt like escaping on the spot. However, thinking about how he didn't keep the promise to cook for their son and allowed him to eat unhealthy food, her face darkened, and she went in, expressionless, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Her ex-husband acted as if he didn't recognize her for quite a while, then awkwardly said, "Ella, you look good." Ella, trying hard not to look at the pregnant woman, nonchalantly replied, "I'm doing okay." Their son, originally sitting between his dad and stepmom, purposely came over to talk to Ella. "Mom, you look so cool in this outfit. Like Spider-Man fighting bad guys. Are you fighting bad guys too? After the pleasantries, an awkward silence followed. Ella suggested taking their son to the gym, and her ex-husband eagerly agreed. There were no children's boxing gloves at the gym, so that day, Lincoln taught Ella's son how to box and promised to get him a pair of gloves next time. The boy was ecstatic. Ella thought it was too extravagant, but Lincoln said, "He likes boxing. You can stop going there and let him come over." After that, every 2 weeks, her ex-husband would send their son to Ella for a day. On weekends when mother and son reunited, Ella would go to the market early in the morning to buy fresh meat and vegetables, preparing various dishes for her son. Since going to the fighting gym, Ella has become more and more energetic, her complexion has improved, and she wears a smile all day long. During practice, when Lincoln asked her what made her happy, Ella threw a few punches and said, "Thanks to you, now I can see my son more often." Lincoln asked, "Why don't you bring your son back?" Ella fell silent. One day, her ex-husband suddenly wanted Ella to pick up their son because his current wife was about to give birth, and he couldn't manage. Ella was delighted and asked if their son was willing to stay with her. The ex-husband said he was willing. After the excitement, Ella couldn't help but worry. Her rented apartment was too small and cramped. She wished she could provide her son with a spacious desk and a comfortable bed. Lincoln was happy for her but understood her predicament. He mentioned that he had another property not far from her son's school, facing north and fully furnished. Ella could move in any time, and he offered it rent-free. Ella was taken aback, looking into his sincere eyes, suddenly realizing his feelings for her. Her heart pounded, and she hastily found an excuse to leave. To take care of her son, Ella hadn't been to the fighting gym for a few days. When Lincoln invited her, she didn't know how to respond and made up an excuse to decline. In a state of confusion, Ella went to the gym to retrieve some items from the locker and didn't see Lincoln. However, people in the gym said Lincoln seemed to have gone crazy, signing up for a fighting competition despite his age. He had been training intensely and even vomited several times recently. The competition required participants to be under 30 years old, indicating it wasn't a standard event. Worried and anxious, Ella called him, expressing her concerns. "How old are you? Why are you joining this circus? It's not a proper competition, is it? Don't think you can beat younger fighters just because you've been training hard. Do you realize your age? And aren't you busy? Don't you have to take care of your company?" Lincoln reassured her, the competition is indeed unconventional, organized within the community to raise funds, with no age restrictions. "Honestly, I also have fears. I want to use this opportunity to face my fears head-on and hopefully overcome the shadows in my heart. Do you think someone like me, who failed to protect his wife, can still find someone to share a loving life with, like other men?" Ella, in a state of turmoil, didn't know how to respond. The day of the competition arrived, and Ella brought her son to cheer for Lincoln. In the squared ring, Lincoln's opponent was a young foreigner. Ella's heart tightened. The one who killed his wife years ago was also a foreigner. Can he really win this fight? In the lively arena, all sounds faded from Ella's mind. She held her son tightly, squeezing through the crowd to get closer to the ring, loudly shouting Lincoln's name. After a few shouts, Lincoln finally heard her. At that moment, his tense and serious face softened with a touch of emotion and tenderness. He jumped down from the ring, and Ella quickly took out an oil-based pen, writing "Victory" on one side of his glove and "Safety" on the other. Lincoln extended his gloved hand to touch both her and the child's heads, smiled, and the match began. In the first round, Lincoln was accidentally kicked in the lower body, and he leaned against the ropes facing Ella to catch his breath and ease the pain. In the second round, the opponent's angles were tricky, and a series of heavy punches hit Lincoln's chin. He endured without falling and won that round. With only a 1-minute break, the ring was brightly lit again. Lincoln squinted, searching for Ella's figure below. She vigorously waved her hands while holding their son, making it effortless for him to spot her. When their eyes met, both had tears in their eyes. After the emotional turmoil, Ella suddenly understood that these days of being together meant more to him than she thought. With her mouth wide open, she shouted, "Go for it." Lincoln nodded vigorously. The opponent, being younger, had advantages in strength, speed, and explosiveness. In the first half of the third round, Lincoln was suppressed on the ground. Later, Lincoln slid under the opponent, escaping the restraint, but he was in pain, sweating all over, and his face turned red. Ella, torn between worry and trance, saw Lincoln enduring the beating on the ring, as if it were her own powerless struggle against her ex-husband years ago. She hoped he would win. He must win. Both their lives had lost too much after a single downfall. They both needed to embark on a new and fresh chapter. In the midst of difficulties, Lincoln suddenly feigned a move, changed his angle, and launched a swift kick. Taking advantage of the opponent instinctively protecting his face, Lincoln swiftly pounced, delivering a few knee strikes, and quickly brought him down. Only now did Ella realize why Lincoln called martial arts an elegant sport. The whole process was so precise and beautiful that she couldn't help but cheer loudly. 3 minutes passed. The opponent couldn't break free from the restraint, and Lincoln won. The audience erupted into thunderous applause, drowning out Ella's sobbing. After the competition, Lincoln took Ella and her son to a friend's farm for a celebratory meal. All three of them were excited. Lincoln took a sip of wine and said winning this match felt like being reborn. If he ever met someone he liked in this lifetime, he would definitely use his life to protect her. Ella asked, "Have you met her?" Lincoln sighed with a smile, I scared her away the first time we met. It wasn't intentional, though. Deep down, I'm actually quite gentle. Look, do I not look like a big brother when I smile?" His words were both tactful and straightforward. Ella couldn't find words, feeling a mix of touched emotions and heartache. In truth, she never thought he could like her and didn't know how to respond to these feelings. Perhaps it was due to her low self-esteem. After a failed marriage, she felt unworthy of him. The atmosphere fell silent for a moment. Lincoln took a few bites of food, sighed to himself, and Ella couldn't help but ask him, "What's bothering you? Didn't you win?" Lincoln said, "It's my mom. She keeps pushing me to find a partner. But I might not be able to have children. After all, I'm 40 years old. So, I think it's better if she already has a child. That way, I won't feel pressured. What do you think?" Ella's face blushed slightly, wanting to maintain composure. She said, "Why are you asking me?" "Well, if not you, then who else should I ask?" "Ask your mom." My mom said, "As long as she's a woman, it's fine." Does he really have such low standards? Ella stared at the man, and he stared back. Ella's son looked at his mom and then at Lincoln, saying, "You guys look like frogs with bulging eyes." They both couldn't hold it in and burst into laughter. That night, after returning home, Lincoln called Ella formally and confessed, "Ella, I'm here for real. I noticed you the first time you came to the arena, and I really want to take care of you. Perhaps, it's fate. You give me the courage to start a new life, and you make me believe that in the arena of life, despite everyone experiencing moments of being knocked down and enduring pain, as long as we can face ourselves and accept who we are from the bottom of our hearts, we can embrace happiness again. Happiness is not a form, it's content. I never believed that marriage is solely for having children. I know you can't let go of your son. Don't be sad, don't worry. You are still a single woman, able to accept the love and assistance of any single man. Give me a chance to accompany you through the rest of your life, okay?" Ella completely let her guard down and cried, saying, "I have nothing and am not worthy of you." But Lincoln said, "How can you be unworthy? As long as you stay with me, you are the best for me." That night, they talked until their phones overheated. Ella asked Lincoln once again if he really didn't plan to have children. He said they were both not young anymore, suffering through childbirth and raising children is tough, and the most important thing is to be happy together. Besides, her child is also his, and he likes him very much, wanting to teach him martial arts. Middle-aged people don't have as much shyness and affectation. Ella accepted his pursuit. Not long into their relationship, Ella's ex-husband's wife gave birth to twin sons. The ex-husband was ecstatic, changing from his previous lazy and indifferent attitude in the last marriage to suddenly becoming a super dad. Seeing his dynamic posts on social media about preparing formula for the babies at midnight made Ella recall the bitter struggles of raising the child alone in the past. But now, with a mature and considerate boyfriend, he was in the living room training her son in boxing while she was in the kitchen cooking. They looked like a warm and happy family, and she let go of her worries. Later, when the ex-husband didn't mention taking back their son, Ella suggested changing the custody to her side, with the ex-husband providing child support each month. The overwhelmed twin father agreed. Finally, her son returned to her side, and Ella felt like the sky above her head was brightening. Everything was getting better, life, emotions. After half a year of dating, Lincoln successfully proposed to Ella. On their wedding day, the man smiled like a middle-aged fool, but Ella knew his broad shoulders were the most powerful support in the world. Holding her son's hand, she took step by step towards him, towards her lifelong happiness and luck.